Yo, what's up, everyone? And welcome back to the Lockdown 49er Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And today we are going to celebrate Roger Craig's induction into Canton, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, long overdue for 33.
Hey everyone, I'm Dwayne Boyd, four-time Super Bowl champion with the San Francisco 49ers. And to get to the Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl, you got to play defense and you got to have speed on defense. And the 49ers in the offseason, they need to address that defensive speed because it showed up in the playoffs and it showed up late in the season.
And I'm Ayrton Osley. I'm an NFL reporter over at USA Today. And piggybacking off that, I'll bring up how the 49ers could address that in the draft.
Lockdown 49er Squad Show starts right now.
To all the faithful, it's the 49ers Squad. Everything San Francisco 49ers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Levi's Stadium. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. For those faithful to the Bay, the 49ers Squad Show starts now.
Hey everyone, this is the Lockdown 49er Squad Show. Thanks so much to everyone for tuning into the show, whether it's on YouTube or however you're getting your podcast feeds. Make sure you are subscribed if you aren't already. Why would you ever want to miss anything that Dwayne Board has to say? And before we get going, I just want to introduce our audience to our new voice, our new face, Ayrton Osley. He works for USA Today and is an NFL reporter, does a lot of great work there. And fun fact, Ayrton and I were both at Cal Poly at the same time. He was actually my editor when we were with the Mustang News, the student newspaper down there. So a little bit of a reunion for us. And Ayrton's going to add a much needed perspective to this show that I feel like only a reporter on the inside of all of these things can really provide. So Ayrton, welcome. Excited to have you in here and going to put you on the spot. Just give me one quick fun fact about you. I think I could give the audience a few, but I want to know what your fun fact about yourself would be.
Oh, goodness. Well, I think the easiest one right off the top of my head, I just went to the Super Bowl for the first time and got to distribute special edition papers to, unfortunately, the Seattle Seahawks, the winning team, but is what it is.
Yeah, it was quite a sight to see you in there passing out, newspapers to the Seattle Seahawks inside the 49ers locker room, which is just not the thing that 49ers fans want to see. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Where I want to start off today is giving Roger Craig some praise, man, because this guy, I mean, talk about a guy that revolutionized the running back position in modern pro football. And it's long overdue that Roger Craig gets his due and gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. And obviously the first 1,000-yard receiving and 1,000-yard rushing running back. It's the first guy to do it in the same season. That 1985 season is when he accomplished that feat. And well deserving. He had 4,911 receiving yards in his career and 8,189 rushing yards in his career, 56 rushing touchdowns, 17 receiving touchdowns. This guy was a machine, was a key cog in those Super Bowl teams from the 80s. And Dwayne, you had a front row seat to all that, man. So give us a little bit on Roger Craig. Tell us what made him so effective in how he was able to revolutionize this position in the Bill Walsh offense.
Well, Roger, in the Bill Walsh offense, the back was very important, okay? It was like having the teams lined up with four wide receivers, and he was like the fourth wide receiver with Tom Rathman as a fullback, and Tom was his blocking back. And all Roger did was, he caught the ball and he ran the ball, and he did it well. And for him to not go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame until now, it's a shame because it's a lot of guys that's in there who I don't know if they even came close to being Roger Craig, but we knew that with Roger, with the ball in his hands, we had somebody to take care of business. And one thing that you can say about Roger though was he was durable. Okay, Roger was a big back, and Roger he hardly ever missed a game. And he took care of his body, and he was always coming ready to play. And the guy was always jubilant too. You never saw him with his head down. That's one thing you admired about Roger. And when you saw him play, it made you play harder.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that I think as a fan, you always see him with a smile on his face. Wherever he's at now, whenever he makes an appearance, which isn't super common for Roger Craig these days, but whenever you see him doing whatever the heck he's doing out in the world, he's always just kind of beaming. He just looks like a happy, content guy in life. And those kind of guys are always so interesting to me, like guys that are able to kind of have that demeanor, but still go out there and punish somebody on the football field. And I want you to speak to that a little bit. Like, how was Roger able to flip that switch and just turn into that dominant force that we saw out there on the field when he seems like such a nice dude just in general? What was that like the difference between Roger Craig the person and Roger Craig the competitor?
Well, Roger Craig, the competitor, was Roger competed even in the off-season training. If you worked out with him, because we all worked out a lot together, and it was always competing, no matter who was working out that day. If it was Jerry Rice, if it was Ronnie, it never mattered. Roger always competed, and one thing that he did was by his house they had these hills up in San Carlos, and he used to run the hills, and I remember doing it one time, and I was like, man, this is tough. And Roger ran it like it was nothing. And at the top, it was something that he always did too when he got to the top of the hill, was the same thing he did when he crossed the goal line. He always ran with high knees, and it was like, oh man, this guy must be fresh when you see him pick his knees up like that. And that was kind of like a staple of Roger when he crossed the goal line. You always saw his legs high kneeing, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to pick who would win in a hill running competition, Roger or Jerry Rice, who would be your pick, Dwayne?
It would be a tie. I know right now if Jerry's listening to the show, he's going to say, man, you crazy. You know I'm the king of the hill. And that's where the real GOAT came in for me, Jerry Rice. And I was the GOAT, and the GOAT came from running up the hill. But Roger was a true GOAT too.
Yeah, and Ayrton, I know that you have long been a proponent. I remember us having conversations about Roger Craig, a decade ago. That feels weird to say, when we were still in college. And man, it's been a long time coming for Roger Craig. How are you feeling, both as a 49er fan and as someone who, writes about this stuff for a living? How does Roger Craig's induction into the Hall of Fame kind of cement his legacy as one of the greatest players, one of the greatest running backs in NFL history?
Yeah, I think looking back on his career, obviously I'm not old enough to remember seeing him play live. I, see a lot of highlights about him. One of the things that always struck me is knowing that he moved like that, but as you're saying, Dwayne, like he was a big guy. He's 6 foot, 220 plus. Like his talent, his mix of traits was just incredible. But the thing for me that got me all the time was people talked about how amazing Marshall Faulk was, getting 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving, and I've always been sitting there thinking like, Roger Craig did that like 15 years before he did, and yet Marshall's getting all this praise, well deserved. I'm not saying this is not me poo-pooing Marshall Faulk. He's one of the best running backs of all time, but I think Roger Craig just felt overlooked for so long, and I never really understood it just because he put together all this production. I understand in a great team, a great franchise like the 49ers during the 80s into the 90s. Yes, it's like, well, how many Hall of Famers can there be? It's like, well, you got to give him his respect. Like, just because he happened to play on a team with Montana, Young, Rice, like all those stars, is like, just because he played with them doesn't diminish his star power and what he was able to do. So I think it's finally just as well deserved. It's deserving, and it's long time coming.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a guy, Dwayne mentioned his durability earlier. Mm-hmm. I mean, he missed 2 games in 87, and he missed 5 games for the 49ers in 1990. That's it. Every other game for every other season, this guy was suiting up on the field, and his entire career, he only had three fumbles in his entire career. And guess what? Virtually none of them came with the San Francisco 49ers. He never fumbled the ball once as a 49er. And just that level of reliability is insane. That's not something that you commonly see in today's game. And like you said, Ayrton, like there's only been 2 other guys to tally 1,000-yard receiving and 1,000-yard rushing totals in the same season. And they're Christian McCaffrey and Marshall Faulk, and that's it. And Christian McCaffrey, for as great as he was for the San Francisco 49ers this year, especially as a wide receiver, he didn't even hit that mark this year. He fell 76 yards shy, I believe, of hitting that 1,000-yard receiving mark. So, I mean, given and we all saw how essential Christian McCaffrey was to the 49ers offense this year. They would not have been able to move the ball in the pass game in most of these contests that they had this season if it was not for Christian McCaffrey. So, Roger, you can try to justify keeping him out as in whatever harebrained scheme you want to use. Like, I mean, you can talk about all the other talent around the roster, the coaching, and I don't really care about any of that. Roger Craig for so long was so consistent and did the damn thing for the Niners year in, year out. And it's well deserved. It's long overdue. Shout out Roger Craig for finally getting that gold jacket. And man, did you guys, Dwayne, did you see his the video where they went to his door and knocked on the door to give him his gold jacket? Did you see the video?
Yeah, I saw the video.
Man, I mean, he immediately came to the door, and obviously I feel like if you're the guy in that situation and you see someone coming up with the gold jacket, you know what's happening. But Roger just, I mean, the elation that Roger showed when he was just like, I finally got it, man. I mean, can you speak to that a little bit? Because he just looked like this was something that was so validating for him. And I wonder if he was kind of needing some of that validation, even though, it's Roger Craig. You might think this guy, with all the Super Bowls, with all the accolades, maybe he didn't need it. But in that moment, it sure looked to be very validating for him.
It was, to be the fourth 49er offensive player to go into Pro Football Hall of Fame from that era. It was jubilant for Roger. And I got to hand it to, Roger for hanging and believing in himself for that long, because he should have been there a long time ago. He should have been there years ago. Like I said earlier, he should have been on the first ballot because he did something for the first time ever that no back has ever done. When you talk about backs, you're talking about Franco Harris, okay? You're talking about Walter Payton. You're talking about all those guys, all right? And Roger did something that was never done before. And it had to be a feel. How great that would feel that you finally made it, but you should have been there a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, well deserved. It's long overdue, and a guy who revolutionized that position should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame. So Roger Craig, hats off to him in a wonderful career with the San Francisco 49ers, and just so happy to see him finally get into the Hall. And while the 49ers kind of have a similar type running back on their roster right now, the rest of the 49ers roster isn't really looking too much like those teams from the 80s. You know what I mean? Like they got some holes they got to fill. Those teams in the 80s, as you know, Dwayne, did not have very many holes that they needed to fill because those teams seemed so stout defensively, so loaded offensively. And looking at this current 49ers roster, that's just not really what I'm seeing right now. So I want to ask you guys, Ayrton, what do you think the 49ers' biggest issue is going into this offseason? What is the number? If you had to pick one thing that I got a whole laundry list of things that I wrote down here, things that did not work out for the 49ers this last season. And we can go through that in a little bit. But if you had to pick one thing that the 49ers just really need to shore up in this offseason, what would that one thing be?
If I had to pick a position, I would definitely say wide receiver. I think there's got to be some more explosiveness on the offense, got to get a little bit more talent out there. Obviously, injuries are a huge deal, but it just came up. You're going into week 18 against the Seahawks, and it's like, all right, well, if Ricky Pearsall plays or not, that has a huge bearing on whether or not the offense can get anything going. George Kittle, we lose him to a season-ending injury, and suddenly it's like, okay, where's the explosiveness outside of McCaffrey for the Shanahan offense to thrive in the way that I think it should? There needs to be just more dynamic weapons on offense, preferably at the wide receiver position.
And when I'm looking at this wide receiver group from last year, and, obviously you expected going into the year that Brandon Ayuk would return at some point. Obviously, that didn't happen. It appears by all accounts that he's played his last snap for the San Francisco 49ers. It would be, I mean, a freaking miracle if we see that guy in a 49ers uniform ever again. But when you're looking at the receivers from last year, outside of Christian McCaffrey, you had Juwan Jennings with 643 receiving yards. You had George Kittle with 628 receiving yards. I'll throw him into the pass-catching group as well, even though he's a tight end. Kendrick Bourne with 551 receiving yards, and Ricky Pearsall with 528 receiving yards. I mean, and then if you want to go down even further, Demarcus Robinson, only 276 yards for this guy who the 49ers really thought were going to be – they thought Demarcus Robinson was going to be maybe not the guy at the position, but – I think for sure they expected more production than they got from him. And obviously, like you said, injuries a big part of this. Ricky Pearsall only appeared in 9 games this year, and a lot of them, in a few of those games that he appeared in, he was kind of just a decoy. He wasn't fully healthy. He wasn't really breaking off those crispy routes that we've seen him, snap off a few times. And when he's healthy, when he's on, he looks really good as a route runner. And that is exactly what I think the 49ers are missing, is a skilled route runner. So getting Ricky Pearsall back would be helpful, but even in games when he was healthy, 58.7 yards per game, that's just not doing it for me. And so when I look around at the NFL and I look at the available free agents, especially with George Pickens coming off the board, it just does not look very, very good out there for what the 49ers can add to this position group. So Ayrton, I know you do a lot of draft prep for USA Today. Is there anybody that you're looking at the wide receiver position that the 49ers should also be taking an extended look at?
Yeah, this, just to give a quick rundown, a quick bird's eye view of this wide receiver class in the 2026 draft. This is a wide receiver class that's rising. It kind of wasn't expected to be a strong suit of this class entering 2025. A lot of the players stepped up to play pretty well, but a lot of them are outside big body X wide receiver types. So you're looking at someone like a Carnell Tate. He's going to be awesome downfield as a contested catch merchant. He's a good field stretcher, even though he's not an elite athlete, elite burst off the line. You get a lot of those types where it's like, okay, 6'3", 6'4", 200, 250, or 210, 215, those types of body types are a lot of what you see. Now, there's a couple guys that do kind of change the mold a little bit with that. I think Texas A&M's Casey Concepcion is a dynamic receiving threat. You give him the ball, he's 5'11", 190, just give him the ball in space, it's going to be great. One of the names that kind of is dropping down boards because of a late season ACL injury is Chris Bell out of Louisville. Now, when a lot of people were originally looking at him, he reminded folks a lot of Deebo Samuel's skill set because he's 6'2", 227, dynamic in the open field, runs projected to have run about a high 4.4 40. So he's a dynamic athlete with close to linebacker size. When it comes to route running, there's a couple guys that'll probably be around day 2, day 3 that are going to be solid. They're not elite athletes, but they're very solid. I look at Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama. He's a guy who's not going to blow you away with anything, but he's savvy, has a lot of things. He does a lot of things right.
Yeah, and when I'm looking at the free agent pool as well, I mean, one glaring issue with this team obviously was speed on both sides of the ball, on the defense and on the offense, and the very severe lack of speed that this team displayed. I think you really need somebody who can take the top off of this defense or opposing defenses as well. And I like Alec Pierce as a downfield threat. I have a feeling you're going to have to overpay pretty dramatically for a guy like that in this wide receiver free agency class. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do from that perspective. And so wide receiver, definitely a big hole in this team right now. Dwayne, at the beginning of the show, you had mentioned speed on defense and the lack of speed on defense. And if there's one spot that is most apparent to you, what position group would that be for the 49ers defense?
I would say the linebackers and also the secondary. And the thing that you got to look at when you building a team and building a defense, you got to build a defense from the inside out. And the thing that the 49ers are lacking, and if you go look at the teams in the West that you got to play defense, okay, you got the Rams. How do you match up against them? You got the Seahawks. How do you match up against them? We're not even going to count the Arizona Cardinals, okay? And you look at those two teams, they got speed on defense. All right. And then you you go down the line, you look at the defensive line, you look at the ends, the pass rushers, you look at the inside guys, you look at the linebackers that they have. And the Rams have a young linebacking crew, and so does the Seattle Seahawks. So those are the main two teams that you're going to have to compete against. And we all know, and we all seen what both of them can do when they're both clicking. And the 49ers have got to go down the line up that they have on the field and say, hey, can these guys compete with these two NFC West teams? Because, like, again, I'm saying I'm not even counting the Arizona Cardinals because they dysfunctional. It's like going to Burger King and they drop off the wrong damn order. That's who they are. Okay, you're gonna get the wrong order from them week in and week out. So
just put the fries in the bag.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't get it. But and I think with that, pass rush wise, we saw what happened after Bosa got hurt. But one guy's he's good, but he needs someone else opposite of him. He needs some help, okay? Because all teams will do is double him, and then the other guys got to win. So, and one thing that I was disappointed in the 49ers front seven was they didn't blitz very much. It was almost like, okay, we're going to play safe. We're going to keep the ball in front of us and come up and tackle and line up and play again. And that's the way they played, and that's how they won as many games as they did. But to be a dominant defense, you got to have a threat blitzing. You got to have guys who can come off the edge. You got to have linebackers who can come up the middle and punish the quarterback. And I just didn't see a lot of that this year from the 49 defense.
Yeah, and to jump off that, Mikael Williams, when he was brought here, I don't think the expectation was that this guy is going to be an off-the-edge force opposite Bosa that's going to generate all of this pressure. I mean, he was a very good run defender. And I think we really saw that shine after the Nick Bosa injury specifically. And later on, after Mikael Williams sustained his injury that caused him to miss a ton of games in this season as well, you saw the 49ers run defense start to kind of fall off a cliff. And he was plugging up a lot of gaps that were, apparent with this front seven. But one thing that does kind of encourage me about that defensive line is how much CJ West and Alfred Collins came on at the end of the season. And we did not see those versions of those players when Nick Bosa was still healthy on the field. But is Nick Bosa going to be able to be the same version of himself coming off this type of a knee injury? And it's not the first time that he's had this type of a knee injury. Dwayne, how tough is it? I mean, to come back from something like that. I mean, as a D lineman yourself, all that force and explosion that you got to have coming off of the knee, it seems pretty impossible from my perspective to expect the same level of production from a Nick Bosa, given all the injuries he's sustained over his career.
Well, I know for a fact what it takes to come off of knee injuries, okay? The biggest thing is building confidence in that knee. And it's not going to just happen overnight. It's going to take a while. It'll probably take him, 6 or 7 games into the season before he starts, just feeling right with that knee, being able to have confidence in it, being able to put it in the ground and go inside, being able to stick it in the ground and go outside. But it's hard to do. And you can go talk. It's almost like I was watching Lindsey Vaughn and how she worked her tail off to come back. It's almost like that. When you're a defensive lineman and playing and rushing the passer, you got to have that kind of confidence in yourself and in your lower part of your body. You gotta feel it. You just can't go out there and second guess it. You gotta feel it. You gotta feel the confidence in those legs. You can't just go out there and say, wow, I can do this. But no, you go back and you look at yourself on film and you wonder why can't I do it? Because you don't have that confidence. You don't have that trust in that leg anymore. And it's hard to come back from. It's not going to be one of those things. He's going to come in day one and be himself again. No, it's not going to be that. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, and he's not getting any younger, first of all. And second of all, it's in a game that is as fast as the NFL is, those split seconds where you, if he is not 100% confident in it and he's thinking about how am I planting this foot, how am I coming off of it, where is my angle right? I mean, if he's thinking about any of those things, he's already beat. I mean, that's this how thin these margins are in the NFL in winning those individual position battles. And there's a lot of good tackles in this NFC West, and Bosa's going to have a hard time winning against them if he is not, 100% healthy. If he doesn't have that strong base and that thick lower half working, it's not going to go very well, I don't think. And I'm not saying that Nick Bosa is going to be, a complete shell of himself. I think he's still going to be a productive player. But I don't think he's going to come back at defensive player of the year level Nick Bosa that we saw a couple years ago. I think those days are, at this point, long behind him. And the 49ers really desperately, I think, need to add to that pass rush because, as you said, they did not blitz a lot last year. We will see if that changes under new defensive coordinator Raheem Morris. But that, it's not like this is the only issue with that defense. I mean, safety play. How much did we talk about safety play towards the end of the season and how just atrocious it was? I mean, bad angles trying to come up and tackle the ball carrier on running plays, or just getting beat completely over the top in bad coverages, and guys missing assignments and over pursuing and leaving the backside wide open for guys to cut back and just run all the way to the end zone. Shout out Kenneth Walker's massive touchdown run that he had against or it was Zach Charbonnet who had the touchdown run in the end of the regular season. Kenneth Walker with the big third down conversion that just broke the Niners' backs. Those things can't happen. Just cannot happen at the NFL level. And so I know it's not the sexiest position to talk about, but safety. I mean, they got to shore it up at safety. And I will say, I am a little encouraged for the secondary going into next season because of Upton Stout and how well that guy played. I think Upton Stout was just an absolute gem for the 49ers this last year, both tackling in open space and his on-ball coverage. He was very, very good, I felt like, in a lot of these situations where he was kind of left on an island, and a lot of teams tried to go after him. It didn't really work out when teams tried to go after Upton Stout. So especially in the second half of the season, that guy grew by leaps and bounds. So that is an encouraging thing. But man, does that safety play got to step up. Ayrton, is there someone that you're eyeing maybe in free agency or in the draft that the 49ers should maybe pursue? Maybe is there a Nick Eamon-Wari that they can go find in the draft this year?
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like a lot of the ethos a lot of folks are going to take out of the Seahawks winning this championship is we got to find our Nick Eamon-Wari, which feels very surface level, doesn't actually look into it. I think it dovetails more in what we're talking about where it can't just rely on one rusher up front. But looking overall at safety, this is a pretty good safety class in the draft. One guy that's one of the best players in the draft, Caleb Downs out of Ohio State. I like to say his tape shows he's like 90% of Ed Reed. That's what his tape looks like. He's not going to be available at the end of the first round, even though he plays safety, unfortunately. But overall, it's a pretty decent safety class. Looking on day 2, there's a couple guys that I like. Penn State's been pumping out a lot of good safeties lately. Zakee Wheatley, good size, pretty good coverage player. There's another guy out of South Carolina, Jalen Kilgore, who just follows on the Nick Eamon-Wari train where it's like South Carolina is going to give you all the athletes you can possibly want with great size. This is overall day 2, day 3. There's going to be a decent number of safeties that could be at least rotational starters to begin with, but a lot of them could develop into, significant contributors sooner than later. Pretty good ceilings. As far as free agency goes, I was a huge Nick Cross truther when he was coming out of the draft and Indianapolis got him. I was upset. I really liked him. I view him more as a run defender. He's going to be more in that type of mold. So I really like him. He's only 24, so this is one where you can have a decent amount of runway to continue to grow, continue to develop. He's one that comes to mind. Ardarius Washington looked poised for a good season before he got injured. Depending on his medicals, that could be a buy low free agent candidate who could pay off.
And I think there is a chance that you see some guys from last year take another step forward. I did like what I saw at times from Marquise Siegel. I think that he's got some work to do in his coverage ability, but there's no question that guy can stick his nose in there and make a tackle in the open field. I think that he definitely proved that towards the end of the season. And Malik Mustafa had his moments. He had very good moments, and he had very bad moments too this last season, where he just completely missed on some tackles and was taking just really weird angles to the ball. And I remember we talked about this play a lot last season, where he had the ball carrier dead to rights along the sideline, doesn't even try to use the sideline to get the ball carrier down, just goes for the big hit and whiffs, and the ball carrier gets an extra like 10, 15 yards out of the play. And those kinds of things cannot happen. I mean, it's weird to talk about a Robert Saleh defense that wasn't executing those little things well, but that's what was happening at certain times last year. And of course, the just plethora of injuries that the 49ers had, I think plays into that as well. You have guys trying to step up and be the hero a little bit in those situations, and they need to get back to playing team defense and being able to just do the little things right. And Dwayne, how hard is that to do? Like, you got a new defensive coordinator coming in. You as a position or as a unit, you didn't have the best year, and you ended the season by giving up 40 to your number one rival, and you watch them go in and win the Super Bowl right after that at your home stadium. Now, talk a little bit about that chip that defense, I think, absolutely has to carry on their shoulder after this season, and what maybe Raheem Morris can bring scheme-wise to this team.
Well, from what I know about Morris, he's had he's not great defense, but decent defenses everywhere he's been, and he's the kind of coach that's not going to put a player in a position that he's not comfortable. And he's very smart. And the thing that you're going to see out of him is you're going to see more blitzing, okay? From watching him in Atlanta, he blitzed a lot. And over the course of the years, he's good at attacking offenses where their weakness is. And that's something that you really didn't see that much of last year. And all they did was play. They played it safe, like I said earlier. That all they wanted to do was keep the ball in front of them, and when they get down in the red zone, that's when the defense played well. I thought the 49 defense played well when the field got close. Okay, but when they had a lot of yardage behind them, that's when they struggled the most, and that's the key too in winning too, is how well is your defense when it gets at the 30-yard line. Okay, the big red zone. Can they shut a team down in the big red zone? Yes, they did. And you go back at Cleveland. Okay, Cleveland had a great defense, but they had a terrible red zone defense, because in the red zone you can't depend on the blitz all the time. You got to play some coverage. You got to shorten the field. The field is short anyway, and you got to shorten it even more on defense. You got to play takeaway down there. And the 49ers did a good job of taking the ball away down in the red zone, and that's big too. So I think he'll keep the defense on the same level that is. I don't think he's going to come in and change a lot of the defensive scheme. He's going to come in and and learn the scheme that's already in place with the 49ers, and probably sprinkle a little bit of his stuff in along the way. So I don't think it'll be a big change as far as that goes. If somebody comes in and throw a whole new defense in with all new terminology, he's not that kind of guy. He's smart. He's going to learn the defense himself and take it from there.
Yeah, and I think they do have a lot of good pieces to build on. Like I said earlier, Alfred Collins, CJ West, I think showed you something towards the end of last year. You'll obviously have Fred Warner back, which is the biggest addition that this team can make to that defense. The biggest single addition is 54 being back in the huddle on the defense and wearing the green dot, and just the communication that he's able to bring to bridge that gap between the front seven and the secondary. There's nobody who can replace what Fred Warner brings to this defense, and just the mentality that he brings, the expectation, the standard that he sets on defense it's not replaceable. You can go grab any other middle linebacker in the league, and they're not going to give you what Fred Warner gives to this defense. So that is the number one thing that I think is going to improve this 49ers defense next year. But, there's also the question of the 49ers kind of taking some swings last year on some guys. And while they did hit on the Alfred Collins, on the CJ West, I think it's fair to say that those guys panned out pretty well. There were some moves that they made that did not pan out very well, such as Nick Martin, who was just on a milk carton for most of the year. This guy had so many DNPs, and even when he was actually available for games when the 49ers were losing linebackers left and right, he wasn't very effective either. And in addition to that, the 49ers go out and try to add some pass rushers midseason, which when you're trying to patch holes in the middle of the year and pick guys up off the scrap heap, that generally doesn't go very well. And it went about as expected. I mean, guys like Keon White, who recently got shot in the ankle and is now the third 49ers player on the roster to sustain a gunshot wound, the most in the NFL of any football team. So that's not very good. And I mean, who knows where he's at health-wise, but I mean, this is also a guy who did not make a very big impact with the 49ers after they traded for him. He only had 1.5 sacks last year. I mean, it's not going to cut it. I mean, the 49ers desperately need a pass rush, and hopefully Raheem Morris can push the right buttons. The return of Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, maybe these things are going to be enough to make the 49ers a little bit better. But I think they're going to need to find something else. Find another guy that they can add opposite Nick Bosa to pressure quarterbacks, and that will in turn improve the entire rest of the defense, because you can only cover for so long in this league. Guys are going to work their way open. If you give them 5, 6, 7 seconds to work downfield, you got to get some pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and the 49ers absolutely lacked that in damn near every single game that they played last season. So hopefully they're able to find something. But even when they did have Nick Bosa out there last year and Fred Warner, when they were both healthy, I mean, yeah, Bosa had that big strip sack to seal the win early in the year. But other than that, I mean, it's not like the 49ers were really getting home when they still had those guys on the field. So, like I said earlier, I'm a little bit encouraged by, CJ West and Alfred Collins and those guys' growth and their ability to take on double teams on the interior and handle that and not let those guards kick out to the edge. And hopefully that will prevent some double teams from Nick Bosa's direction, and they'll be able to absorb some of that. But again, I think you really need somebody else. Mikael Williams also, hopefully this guy's able to take a step forward. But, man, there are a lot of holes on this 49ers team right now, and I think it's nothing short of a miracle that they were able to win as many games as they were this last season. Let's take a quick break here. On the other side, let's get into some of the Super Bowl stuff. I mean, there was just a Super Bowl here in the Bay Area, and in Ayrton, you were there in person. So let's get into that a little bit. And the 49ers playing a game in Australia. How do you feel about that? We'll get into both of those things next here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. And if you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs puts your post right at the top of that page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone for this show, I'd go straight to Indeed. I'd look for Ayrton Osley's resume and I'd bring him right on board. And, you can be very specific about what you need, real experience, not just resume buzzwords. And instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results. Using Indeed sponsored jobs, listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E. Engel, joined by Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion, and Ayrton Osley of USA Today. And guys, there was a Super Bowl down here in Santa Clara, and as much as I'm almost afraid to admit this to the audience, I couldn't watch that, man. I absolutely could not bring myself to watch a damn second of that Super Bowl. I mean, I get it. You know, it's here in San Francisco in the center of the sports media world for a whole week. And there were events out the wazoo and celebrities from all over the world coming to town. And there was a lot of stuff happening around. And I did go do, you know, some of those other extracurricular fun things that were occurring in town during that time. But I could not bring myself to watch that big game. As soon as I saw Seahawks in one end zone and Patriots in the other end zone, I just instantly got nauseous, needed to run to the bathroom and throw up about 7 or 8 times until I could just get all those bad feelings out of my system. Ayrton, how did you prevent yourself from having such a repulsed reaction while you were sitting up there in the 49ers press box watching this unfold in front of you?
Yeah, with one end zone painted with Seahawks colors and their logo. Yeah, that's one of those times where it's like, all right, I got to put my fandom aside and just focus on the job in front of me, and understand it's bigger than like, all right, this. I would have loved if it was a couple different teams, but hey, it's still a Super Bowl. It's a Super Bowl. I got to get the job done. I had work to do, and I'm like, okay, we'll take care of it. But one thing that was, yeah, try to be professional. Yeah.
It was one thing that I talked to Eric about before we even started the show was the nice thing about it was they didn't invade the 49ers practice facility. It was almost like usually when there's a Super Bowl, if it's an AFC team in the Super Bowl and they was in the town, they let them practice in their practice facility. And the 49ers kept them out of our home facility, which was great. You know, they had to go to San Jose State. So, hey.
And I say this kind of tongue in cheek, but also there's like a layer of seriousness to it. I do kind of wonder how much the substation stuff plays into that. I mean, we have seen so many guys come out and talk about this. George Kittle was the one that I saw most recently where he said that, he was just kind of concerned about that substation and that it might make you even 1% worse. And you have Kyle Juszczyk going on podcast talking about this, and whether or not it's a real thing, players believe that it's a real thing. You like multiple guys. I saw Adam Pac-Man Jones talking about how he has talked to multiple current NFL players that are like, yeah, man, like that's a real thing. And I'm not going anywhere near that team because I'm not practicing near that substation. And they pointed to, the trees on one side of the street versus the other is kind of some evidence of that and all sorts of other stuff. And it sounds very fringe science-y to me, like not a whole lot of data or real facts here, and we're just kind of going off of vibes, which is never a great way to approach your science. But regardless, if it's a belief amongst players in the NFL, that's a legitimate issue for the 49ers, and it's so insane to think that maybe the electrical substation could have played a part in how these teams prepared for the Super Bowl, but that's a narrative, man. And Ayrton, are you buying into that narrative at all?
Not particularly. I just look at the fact that the substation's been open since before Kyle Shanahan and his staff got in town, and prior to Shanahan's arrival, the injuries were at a pretty normal to below average level. I think it's I don't fully buy in. I think it's something that's like a convenient scapegoat when it could be maybe we need to make some changes in more of the preparation preseason. So maybe there's a little bit less stress on players' bodies as, players are getting faster, stronger, tested more by the competition during the season athletically. It's like maybe we can reel that in a little bit. I know they've made changes to the training staff. Maybe some more changes there could be good. But I think it's a very convenient scapegoat. And yes, a lot of players during Super Bowl media days were getting asked about that. I know Mac Hollins was one of the folks that was asked about it, probably by 4 or 5 different reporters just to get his way in.
Yeah, I mean, was that something that you personally heard being discussed? How often were you hearing those types of conversations come up during media week?
Oh, pretty much every media availability, at least one or two reporters was asking pretty much every player. I know obviously Mac Hollins, he has a reputation for, he walks around barefoot. He's,
How to get
he's like
grounded.
exactly. So there's some players that it's like, well, I'm looking for a soundbite here. We'll ask him about it. But some of them are just kind of like, yeah, it's a theory. Don't know if I necessarily buy into it. But most all of them, while I was there on Tuesday and Wednesday, were getting asked about that specifically. Just kind of they're getting to weigh in. I know. The Patriots, because they were staying in Santa Clara, were over at Stanford for their practice. The Seahawks were staying down in San Jose, so they were at San Jose State. They say it's because they have their own, they can kind of use the campus, they can kind of figure out and mediate who comes in and who comes out. But yeah, it's good fodder for the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and Dwayne, as a guy who I know was a little bit superstitious in your playing time with the inside out shirt and some of the other traditions that you've shared with us, when some of these, regardless of if this thing is real or not, regardless of if the electrical substation is actually causing guys to get injured or not, let's put all that aside. If guys actually believe that, I mean, if there's an issue that may or may not be a real issue, but if guys believe that it's a real issue, how severe of a problem is that for the 49ers, especially when you're going into an offseason where you've got to plug a lot of holes?
Well, I don't believe it shouldn't be an issue, because one thing that I look at, the way they're protected in training camp. Those guys, it's almost like you got to get ready to play football in training camp, okay? You've been out running around training with your personal trainer, but you haven't been football training, okay? You haven't been lined up with a guy that's 320 pounds laying on you, pushing on that weight. And you have to train, and, and it's too easy for the guys today. They show up at training camp and, it's like it's a country club. Well, I'm not working today, and then they get, well, so and so gets a day off today because he's a sore finger. Okay, that don't play it. You got to go out there and prepare yourself to play a physical game, and they don't do that today. They go out and run around in shorts and t-shirt all day long, and what can you say? Maybe if they put their helmet and shoulder pads on, that's that barrier, that substation won't have no effect on them, The hair won't stand up on their head if they put their helmet on, okay? That's the way I look at it. I think it's a bunch of bullcrap. I think that's a way out, and to me, you got to get ready to play in training camp, and it doesn't happen today. Well, one thing, they hold guys out because of their money. They worry about them getting hurt, but I'd rather for them to get ready to play in that manner in training camp, okay, rather than go into the season, 3 games into the season, that's your third training camp day, you get hurt and miss the rest of the season, okay? It doesn't make sense. You can't baby guys. You can't just go out there, and put the spray Band-Aid on the wound. You got to go out there and put a real Band-Aid on from working. So I disagree with that whole thing. Hey, the birds fly underneath those all day long.
They do. Yeah. And they're still flying around.
Yeah,
The birds don't got any injuries. We just saw all the bird teams in the playoffs be just fine. The Seahawks soaring all the way to a Super Bowl. I mean,
and then you look at it too. You go down there and there's an eagle building a nest underneath it. So tell me if it's danger, okay?
Yeah. I think we're all in agreement here that this electrical substation story just it's amazing to me that this even got legs. It's so crazy to me that this is actually something that we need to talk about on the show. It blows my mind that we're spending 10 minutes on the electrical substation across the street from the damn practice facility and maybe how it played a role in this Super Bowl. But I digress. Before we get off the Super Bowl topic, I do want to say, while it was, I like I said, I did not really watch the damn thing because I was just repulsed by it. But, I did generally see how the game flow went and all the field goals, and that it was kind of just a boring game, which, I mean, that's I'm glad everyone else had to suffer the same way that us Niners fans had to suffer. And if you're going to get a Seahawks Patriots Super Bowl and someone has to win, I'm glad it was at least boring as hell on the way there. And the last thing I'll say about the Super Bowl is I think that regardless, even though it was the Seahawks that won the game, I really think it was the city of San Francisco that was the real winner for this year's Super Bowl. I mean, to see the national media script completely flip on San Francisco itself, for so many people to come here and be like, oh my God, this place is incredible. It's beautiful. They got great burritos in the Mission, and the Palace of Fine Arts is beautiful. And all these people all of a sudden who had been talking about the San Francisco death spiral for the last decade kind of changed their tune and started talking about how great this place is. And so while on one hand, I think that's kind of hilarious because a lot of things that these people were pointing to are institutions that have been in the city for decades completely unchanged. But at the same time, I'm very glad that people are starting to come around on San Francisco and see that this place has a whole hell of a lot to offer and is one of the most beautiful cities, not just in the United States, but in the world. And just what a great place to host a Super Bowl. And even though Levi's has its shortcomings in a lot of ways compared to some of these newer stadiums, San Francisco as a in the Bay Area as a whole, as like a host city, they knocked it out of the park. Absolutely knocked it out of the park. The number of events that were happening around San Francisco, the number of just things going on, the number of people here. Oh my God, it's been absolute hell trying to get around town this last week, but in the best way. And I think that is something that San Francisco as a whole absolutely needed. And hey, while the electrical substation might be keeping some guys out, maybe that allure of coming to a place like this will help attract more guys in free agency. And yeah, you're going to have to probably pay a little bit more in state taxes working here as opposed to working in another state. But hey, you don't got San Francisco somewhere down in Florida. You don't got San Francisco out there in Texas. San Francisco is a unique, just awesome place to be. And it was nice to be able to see that represented on a global stage such as the Super Bowl. Let's take another break here. We not our last one. We still got one more after that, but quick break here. And on the other side, we got some more things to talk about. We talked about some of the Niners issues that they had last year. Well, let's end on a positive note. Let's talk about some of the things that the 49ers did well last year and how they can build on that next year in 2026. We'll be right back on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. The winter games are officially here. And if you are anything like us, me especially, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. I absolutely love the Winter Olympics. I'm a huge, huge avid snowboarder. If you're a regular on the show, you probably know this about Triple E. I am every weekend trying to get my butt up to Tahoe and on the slopes. And man, nothing makes me happier than I was just watching half-pipe qualifying earlier today. Man, it is absolutely electric. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel, it just makes sense, man. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action, the drama of those curling matches. Oh, man, the slow start and somehow got so intense. That gold medal match, incredible. Speed skating, races, decided by just inches, by just millimeters in some cases. The hockey has been off the charts. And as I said, snowboarding events, all the skiing stuff, man, I saw some guy run the equivalent of like a sub 6 minute mile uphill in skis. I mean, how do you not get excited about the Winter Olympics? The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E. Engel, joined by Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion, and Ayrton Ostley of USA Today. And man, my brain is now stuck in Winter Olympics mode, man. I mean, it's been so awesome watching the Winter Olympics. I absolutely love this. And it, just real quick, Dwayne, favorite Winter Olympic event?
Oh, right now? Oh man, I'm all for the women's hockey team, man. Those girls are playing some. You talk about speed. It's amazing how fast some of them are, and skaters. I'm impressed by them.
Yeah, I mean, if you've never been to the Shark Tank down in at the SAP Center, it's time to get down there because man, Macklin Celebrini has been electric, and it is. I mean, hockey is. admittedly not my favorite sport, not the sport I pay the closest attention to, but oh man, it might be my favorite sport to watch live in person. It is absolutely electric. Ayrton, what about you? Favorite Winter Olympic sport?
All right, this is going to be a little bit off the beaten path, a little niche. I love biathlon.
I knew you were
It's
going
one
to
of my
say that.
favorite ones. It's random. I love that they're like, you know what? Let's do cross country skiing and target shooting. That's what we're doing with, and everybody has to. It's so high drama. This year's been crazy with biathlon, and yeah, I love that it's a very random, pairing for two events in the Winter Olympics, and it's always, who's going to miss one of the targets on the last shooting range and then have to do a penalty lap. Oh no, is he going to get caught up? She going to get caught up? So I love biathlon, but also gotta shout out hockey. It's been awesome. Team USA's been kicking butt this year.
Yeah, they have, and the Team USA curling team was awesome this year too. I mean, I have never been.
I was going to bring that up too. Yeah. Hey.
Dude, I've never been so excited to watch guys slide stones across ice in my whole life. It's been electric to watch, and fun. Another fun fact about Ayrton Osley and myself, we're both of Norwegian descent, so it's no surprise that we like these weird niche winter sports because I feel like it's ingrained in our blood. But I gotta say, I'm really excited for the ski mountaineering this year, which is a new sport that's added to 2026. And it's a combination of, it's exactly what it sounds like, downhill skiing and mountaineering at the same time. And it's timed, and like, oh man, I cannot wait to watch this get underway here pretty soon. So that's what I'm looking forward to in the Winter Olympics. But man, the whole thing is just so fun. The snowboard big air was really cool to watch already. That was one of my favorite events. Just electric, absolutely electric. And for the 49ers, they had some electric moments on offense this year. And, the defense, it was, they rose to the occasion at times. But offensively, I think this team did a lot of really good things. And I think the number one thing, the most electric thing for the 49ers this year wasn't even someone who was stepping on the field. It was Kyle Shanahan. If there is any doubt left from anybody in the 49ers fan base about what this guy can do as your head coach, I challenge you to find another coach who would be able to produce a 13-win season and a playoff win with the myriad of injuries the 49ers had to essential key players on this team last year. I think what Kyle Shanahan did this last season was nothing short of a masterclass in showing why coaching matters and showing that he is one of the elite coaches in the NFL. And I mean, the 49ers, I think, would be lost without this guy. I mean, it's not too hard for me to remember the Jim Tomsula years, the Chip Kelly years, the Mike Singletary years. It's not too far away that those things were a reality, and the 49ers were perennially in the top 10 of the NFL draft. And with Kyle Shanahan, that's just not something you're getting. So anybody who's still doubting this guy, I don't even know what to tell you at this point. This guy is the best thing the 49ers have going on this entire football team right now. And it's been great to watch him, do his thing and keep this team afloat. And he had to change up so many things about this team and how the offense operated and was able to move the ball down the field. And I was very impressed with that. And while, we did at times want more creativity from Shanahan in the play calling this last year, I think he was kind of hamstringed with the personnel that he had and what he was able to do. And of course, when the moment was, when the lights were brightest, we saw one of the best trick plays of the entire season for any team with the Juwan Jennings touchdown pass in the postseason to Christian McCaffrey. That was absolutely beautiful. Hang it in the Louvre. But they need more, right? Like, the great coaching can only get you so far. It's going to come down to who's actually out there on the field to get you over the hump. So, Dwayne, if you had to pick one spot that the 49ers did exceptionally well in last year and that they can build on going into next season, what is that one spot?
I think the one spot that improved the most was the pass protection was one. Two was the running game, because in the beginning it was kind of hit and miss at the running game, and I thought they stepped up as the year went on, except for the last game of the season. The running game didn't get going, so when you don't have the running game, and we talked about it before, the passing game don't work, okay? Because Kyle Shanahan's a play action coach, okay? His offense runs on play action, and when they don't have play action, you see what happens, okay? They don't do very well, and I think that's one thing that I thought that came along was the offensive line, but it can still get better. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you had a lot of moving parts up there, especially at center, especially at
Yeah.
the guard
The guard
position.
position.
You had a lot of different bodies rolling in and out, and I think some consistency in this offensive line will do them real well. And hopefully, they're able to figure out an everyday solution at left guard, an everyday solution at center. Maybe it's some of these guys coming back from injury. Maybe it's Jake Brendel again. Who knows? I thought Matt Hennessy played very well in his short time that he was in there as the starter before he himself sustained another injury. I mean, it feels like every guy that we talk about on this team sustained some sort of injury that kept them out for long periods of time this last year. And I think it's going to be, we say this every year, man, but it's got to stop sometime, right? Like there's got to be some sort of regression to the mean as far as the injuries go. They got to get back to average at some point. And if the 49ers had even an average amount of injuries this last year, maybe things turn out differently the way that this season ended up. Ayrton, same question to you, man. If there's one area of this team that the 49ers were just that excited you about this team, something they can build on next year and hopefully see some similar production or even more production from, what is that one spot?
Yeah, I think one we've talked about it a lot, but kind of real quick, dovetailing off what Dwayne was saying, I think I was really impressed by what Colton McKivitz did at right tackle this year. That was a spot where I thought, maybe last year is like, maybe in the draft look to upgrade a one tackle spot, plan for Trent Williams' successor type of idea. But McKivitz played exceptionally well. I was pleasantly surprised by that. But honestly, I think my favorite bit has been how promising we talked about this Alfred Collins and CJ West, some of those younger guys on the defensive line. Like looking at Alfred Collins' body type, he's kind of a Chris Jones type, long, tall, big presence on the interior. CJ West, a little shorter, he's got that leverage, good run defender, and kind of seeing their growth from, even if both of them dealt with, we're in and out of the lineup at times dealing with injuries. But I was pleasantly surprised by them, and McKivitz as well. It was like, okay, I was thinking maybe he could hit free agency, let him go. That's okay.
No,
I think we can keep
not
him around
anymore.
for a little while. Yeah, we can keep it around for a little while.
Yeah, man, it's a strange world that we're living in where Colton McKivitz has suddenly risen to the cream of the crop for the San Francisco 49ers offensive lineman. It was not that long ago that the entire fan base wanted this guy sent to Siberia, and now we can't imagine life without him. And man, I mean, it's a real good thing that they got at least one tackle. That is, Trent Williams is still Trent Williams to some extent, but he's declining for sure in his physical capabilities. He's getting up there in age, and the looming question of retirement always lingers with Trent Williams at this point in his career. But you have Colton McKivitz, and at least you got one side where for sure this tackle is ready to go. Plug him in, and things will be fine for the most part. And the one other guy specifically that I want to point out and shout out is Kyle Juszczyk, man. Like this guy was a guy that the team almost let go in the last offseason, and thank God they brought him back because you saw how important he was to this team, especially after George Kittle got injured, and he started to kind of fill that role of some of the things that Kittle does. I mean, the amount of running lanes that Kyle Juszczyk opens up as a blocker is very, very, very beneficial to this 49ers run game, and to be able to use him as a pass catcher as well. I mean, we did like a whole show almost on his efficiency as a pass catcher with Brock Purdy as quarterback this last year. And I mean, he has been so vital to keeping this offense on schedule and doing the little things. I've never seen a guy hustle as hard on motion plays where you're not getting the ball as Kyle Juszczyk, and you got to have guys like that on the roster. And so Juice, I hope he's back next year as well. And man, the 49ers really, I think needed him. Like he is the perfect pairing in the Kyle Shanahan offense to go with everything that they want to do, all the motion that they use. He's such a cerebral player as well. I mean, this guy, he has great hands. I mean, there isn't one thing that he is like exceptionally great at, but he is good at everything. He clears the bar on virtually everything you ask this guy to do. So Kyle Juszczyk was a very good piece for this offense, and I think you saw what his value is. I know a lot of people don't like paying a bunch of money for a fullback in today's NFL. I think Kyle Juszczyk is the exception to that rule. So I think that the 49ers got some things to build on going into next year. The young defensive line on the interior, hopefully Mikael Williams looks more like the guy that they thought they were going to get when he comes back next season. Hopefully George Kittle isn't out forever with that Achilles injury. We will see. But hey, you had Jake Tonjes filling in a pretty decent way when he needed to, when Kittle was out. And Mac Jones. Mac Jones is another guy who like really benefited the 49ers this year and stepping up when Brock was out with that turf toe injury. And he, kept the ship afloat, kept them on course. And that's all you can ask of a backup quarterback. There were definitely some things the 49ers did well this last season. Obviously, they won 13 games and knocked the Eagles out of the playoffs in their own damn building. I don't think this last season was a failure by any stretch of the imagination. I think that to do what they did with the cards that they were dealt is exceptional. And I think that the 49ers definitely have some things they can build on for next year. One last super quick break here. We'll wrap this show up on the other side. And the Australia game, man, how are you feeling about it? We'll close the show on that on the here on the Lockdown 49ers Squad Show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Lockdown 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E. Engel, with Dwayne Board, four-time Super Bowl champion, and Ayrton Osley making his debut appearance on the Lockdown 49ers Squad Show from USA Today. And guys, it's already been released that the 49ers will play the Rams in Australia next year. A little thunder from down under, just in a different version than what you might be thinking of when I say that for the NFL next year. Ayrton, are you hyped about this, or is this just kind of like kind of situation? I mean, I know a lot of teams a lot of fan bases don't necessarily like the international games because of the seemingly, the effects that seem to linger on after the game and things like that. How are you feeling about this game in Australia?
I like the idea of the 49ers playing an international game. I think it's great. I think it's great to expand the fan base. I just think this one's, of all the ones to go to, this is a long trip. It's going to be a long recovery for getting back and getting adjusted. The time difference is a lot. And also the idea that it's 49ers-Rams, one of the rivalry games, one of the more important games on schedule, looking at the NFC West standings from this past year. I understand wanting to have like a high-profile matchup going to another country, but I was like, man, did it have to be the Rams? Did it have to be the one all the way in Australia? I'm gritting my teeth, and I really, really hope, I assume they will get the bye directly after that game, so it'll give them extra time to kind of adjust back.
Yeah, I've heard a few ways that they're thinking about creating the schedule around this, and one of the other theories that I had seen was maybe giving them the opening night where you play on Thursday. And I've seen a theory that maybe they do that and have them play that Thursday game over in Australia. It gives you a couple extra days on the back end to reacclimate back here before getting into practice mode for your next game. It's almost like a mini bye that you're going to get. But I'm kind of in your boat, dude. Like that's a rough trip to go. That's a rough business trip to go make. And the time change and just the number of hours on the plane. I mean, that's a lot to deal with. Dwayne, if you were on the 49ers right now, would you be excited about this Australia game, or would you be kind of pissed at the NFL for making you fly all the way out to the land down under?
I would be pissed. Okay. Why don't they send the Seahawks and Rams down, let them play the game, and send the 49ers to Mexico City, somewhere close? But it's tough. Those international games are hard on you. I don't care how you look at it. They're hard. And to go that far, wow. Even if you play it on Thursday, it doesn't count. Thursday, wow. Now, if you went on Thursday and played it during the season and your bye was after you came back home too, it's great. But are they going to set it up like that? Because you get a few extra days, but I don't play that. Them out of the country games are hard.
They should have sent the Eagles. I mean, they got Mailata over there. Like, send a Australian back over there. Give them
something. Michael Dixon.
Yeah.
Michael Dixon over there.
There you go. I'm not sure that the Seahawks play the Eagles this year, but send them both out there. So Send both of those teams over the ocean, please, and they can stay there. That would actually be better for all of us. So, but that's about all the time that we got for you guys today. So happy for Roger Craig, where we started the show off. I mean, just a well-deserved Hall of Fame induction for 33, and just to be enshrined in Canton, well-deserved. And, hats off to Roger for such a great career. 49ers, some holes, some things to build on, a mixed bag for going into 2026. We will see what unfolds throughout this 49ers offseason, and we will be back twice a week for the entire offseason on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. So make sure you're subscribed everywhere, however you're getting your podcast, on the YouTube channel, on Locked On 49ers YouTube channel. And thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all of you everydayers for sticking around and gaining, creating a community here with us on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. For myself, Eric Triple E Engel, Dwayne Board, and Ayrton Osley, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.